presentation is about quantum healing. And while normally we talk about the one who gets the healing, the patient, and the benefits he gets and the problems that can be fixed, today I will talk about the one who gives the healing, the healer, and how to become one. This way I want to bring some clarity in the difference between treatment and healing, and what it really means to heal man behind the disease. And I want to bring some clarity in the different disciplines you need to master in order to become a quantum healer. And why I want to do this is because I see so much confusion. Treatment and healing are often used as equivalent or synonym, while they mean something different. And I see often therapists who intend or pretend that they treat the person, but with some closer inspection, I noticed that there is only a treatment of diseases, all kinds of diseases, and at all level, but just diseases, not the person. And then at an academic level, I see a lack of interest in healing. Most research is just used or meant to disprove the value of healing. Now, before we dive in, let me shortly introduce myself. My name is Johan Vermeiren. I'm from Belgium. I'm a quantum osteopath and a consciousness researcher. But most of all, I am a man of the field. For more than 33 years now, I'm having my own practice, practicing osteopathy. And although I have my academic credits, I learn the most from observing and listening to my patients in my search for how to heal my patients on a deeper and more profound level. And as a PhD student from Amit Goswami, in the research of quantum healing, my focus is on the healer, with the question, is quantum healing, is it a gift you're born with, or is it something you can learn and train at an academic level? What I see as a key problem in therapy is the way we look at it. We all look in the same fixed way at therapy. We believe that therapy is meant to solve a problem, a disease. And the model we use is to find and to fix that problem. And we believe that the better we can define the problem, the better the result. And why do we look all in the same fixed way? Well, it's quite simple. It's because finding and fixing the problem is the only model that is taught at school. At the university, you learn two things. You learn how to find the problem, and that's why you have to study so much pathologies. And secondly, how to fix the problem, and that's why you have to study so much protocols. And it's always the same. The healer works with the ITT principle. If this, then that. If this, then that. If this, then that. And so on and so on. So, if you look around you, there are so many different therapies, but they all working with the same model, finding and fixing the problem. So when it comes to therapy, there is a kind of tunnel vision, and treating the disease seems to be enough. There is no need for another model, there is no need for healing. Now when it comes to health, there are two major things that we believe. We believe that health is strictly a medical issue, and that science as we know it today can solve all problems. Now, what does that mean? It means that we cannot talk these days about health without talking about pathologies. And what we believe is that the way we can eliminate pathologies is the way we can increase health, the level of health. And another idea is that when we can eliminate all pathologies, that's when man is healed. And science as we know today, the Newtonian science, reduces the body to the physical and the known. Everything that cannot be explained by the physics is seen as epiphenomenal. Science as we know it, the Newtonian science, can actually only answer the how-to question, how the body is functioning in its mechanical way. So, science as we know it, the Newtonian science, reduces the body to a machine. But we are not a machine, we are human beings, aren't we? So, in order to heal man behind the disease, we need to include philosophy and man's search for meaning and purpose. We have to include spirituality and man's quest for happiness. And we have to include the non-physical domain of reality to have the ability to look at man in its wholeness. And there is some good news. There is a science today that bridges the gap between science and spirituality, that brings together science and spirituality. It's called the quantum science. But quantum science is using another worldview and another paradigm. It states that instead that matter is the ground of all being, quantum science states that consciousness, that oneness, is the ground of all being. And that's the problem when it comes to health. This new paradigm, there is no place for it in the existing world in academic world and the world of science. And science as we know it, the Newtonian science, divides therapy in evidence-based and non-evidence-based medicine. Non-evidence-based medicine called the complementary and alternative medicine. But now, when adding quantum science or integrating quantum science, we can add a second polarization between diseases, treatment of diseases, and healing of the man behind the disease. Bringing this all together, we get a complete idea of the scope of therapy. And then we see that today therapy is reduced to the treatment of diseases in an evidence-based way. All the rest is seen as pseudoscience, as quackery. And the subject of today is to look at healing in its own value. In fact, it's a representation today of my personal journey as a therapist, from a traditional osteopath towards a quantum osteopath, and my work as a PhD researcher, searching for answers to the what, the how to, and the why of quantum healing. What I did in my research was bringing three topics together: osteopathy, quantum science, and the non-physical properties of man. And they brought me to the three questions I had to answer. The what, how can we, what is it healing man behind the disease, and how can we do this? What are the principles, what are the concepts? Can we build theory on it? And then the last question, why do we need quantum healing? What is the difference with treatment of diseases? And in addition, how far can we go in our healing? So what does the quantum healer heal? Normally we divide diseases in acute and chronic ones, but when we add a second polarization between physical and non-physical diseases, things will become obvious and clear. There are conditions that affect the physical, but there are also conditions that affect the non-physical. And the physical, that's what we know. That's what's been taught to us at school. We know quite well how to repair the machine in us. We can do it in a mechanical way, like we do in with the traditional osteopathy. We can do it in a chemical way, like with orthomolecular medicine, or we can do it in a physical way, like with homeopathy, like with bioresonance, like with all kind of energy healing. So it results in a machine that can function properly. That's what we know. But there is also the non-physical damage. It's the damage to the human being in us. And that's what nobody is talking about in science. They talk about it in the religion and spiritual tradition of how to become a good man. Now, what does it mean, damage to the human being? It means that you cannot function optimally as a human being. Look at this in this way. What is the first thing you let go under stress? Yes, it's your love, it's your goodness, it's your honesty, it's your truth, it's your beauty, it's your wholeness, it's yourself. Yeah? And what is it that has the most healing power in it? It's the same. It's the love, it's the goodness, it's the truth, it's your honesty, it's your wholeness. Yeah? And the non-physical property is what it says it is. It are those properties that cannot be explained by the laws of physics, and it are those properties that differs us from a machine. And the positive psychology, they divide it in 6 categories, and they describe it in detail. In quantum science, we refer to the archetypes to describe the non-physical properties of man. You have abundance, power, you have goodness, love, there is justice, beauty, truth, wholeness, and self. Now, let me give you an example of a non-physical trauma to make things clear. And I want to use myself as an example because I believe that every healer has a huge non-physical trauma. And the first step to become a healer is to heal this non-physical trauma. You become a healer because you're very altruistic. You want to be of service to the other. You want to help the other in the best way possible with his health. So you not only treat the disease, but you want to heal the man behind the disease as well. And that's not allowed. The only thing that is allowed within medicine is to treat diseases in an evidence-based way. And that's happened to me back in the 90s. One day I was convicted for illegally practicing medicine. It was not allowed anymore to practice as a traditional therapist. I had to close my practice, so I lost my income, having a family of 5 children, so it was a huge punishment for me. But the worst thing of all was the humiliation. And that's something that's in the unconscious, the collective unconsciousness. A healer is a charlatan, a healer is a quack, a healer is a cheater, a healer is a faker. You are the bad guy as a healer. While you're very altruistic, people look at you as a bad guy, and that's the damage in the human being. That's your non-physical trauma. And what happens? You start living in fear, in uncertainty. There is fear to be punished again, to be convicted again. There is uncertainty. You can lose your income once again. So your body is in a continuous state of survival. You think you start living for the wrong reason. You have to defend yourself. You think you have to prove yourself. And that's what we call, you start living in the base level human condition. There is suffering, there is separateness, there is struggle. There is suffering because the brain becomes the boss. You can only act as a programmed machine, and you cannot fulfill anymore your higher needs because the negative emotional brain circuits are driving you. So you start having a dissatisfied life, a lack of happiness, and you start having a search for pleasure, all kinds of pleasure, and even you can get addicted to pleasure. And there is separateness because in that contracted state, in the me-centeredness, you become lonely. And lonely is the main cause for all kinds of heart diseases. And there is that struggle because your body is in a continuous state of freeze. And in a state of freeze, there is no recovery of the body. So resulting in chronic inflammation or chronic fatigue. So you start living in a base level human condition. And that's the key problem. That's what needs to be healed. And what happened in therapy? Well, most of the therapies compensate this state of being. They are giving you some painkillers or whatever, or they try to learn you how to live with this problem. And with treatment, we can change the state of functioning of the body, the state of doing. We can make the body faster, stronger, smarter, whatever, but it's just the state of doing. And what needs to be shifted, to be changed, to be transformed is a state of being, from a conditioned machine towards a creative human being. And that's the key of healing, transforming the state of being. And that brings us to the second question, the how-to. Well, healing is not guided by protocols, but by principles. And the first principle is that the process of healing is a process of reconnection. You reconnect with the non-physical properties. How to keep your non-physical properties alive under stress. And you reconnect with the non-local domain of reality, the domain of oneness, the domain of consciousness. It's the domain of possibilities, the domain of potentiality. So you learn that everything already exists in potentiality, and the art of healing is to make it manifest. And in this picture, you see the illusion of disease. The more you are connected with your source, with your oneness, the less shadow, the less diseases. And that's the huge difference between healing and treatment, because in healing you will focus on the reconnection and diseases will dissolve. You're not focused on the diseases, you're focused on the reconnection. And in treatment we do the opposite. We focus on diseases and we hope when all diseases are eliminated, we will be reconnected with our non-physical domain part of reality. Second principle is that healing is a process of manifestation. Etymologically, osteopathy means the suffering of the bones, the inability to manifest your essence, of the essence of who you are at the deepest level of the structure of the physics. That's what osteopathy is about. That's what makes osteopathy a healing modality. And manifestation is something we do not understand quite well, I think. It's a process from non-manifest towards manifest. And we think that we have to build health from a state of non-existing towards a state of existing. No, everything already exists in its potentiality, and it's the art to make it active, to make it manifest. And healing, as the third principle, is not about perfection, it's about making progress. And the process of making progress is not a linear process. Healing is not a linear process, it's a creative process. And in quantum science we call it the doobie-doobie-doobie. It's an alternating of conscious and unconscious processing. So it's about creating quantum leaps. Making progress by making quantum leaps. And that brings us to quantum osteopathy. Breaking through the fixed way of looking is one thing, but walk your talk is another thing. And that's where quantum osteopathy comes in. Quantum osteopathy is about engages in the embodiment, making it real. And to define quantum osteopathy, I would say it's bringing wholeness into form and function, bringing non-physical properties into the physical. When it comes to form, you bring in some extraordinary properties, some extraterrestrial properties maybe. It's properties that cannot be explained by the laws of physics or physiology. It's like in alchemy. And functioning is you can let function the organs, the body on another level, a new physiology. You can function in a creative, intuitive and purposive way instead of the programmed survival state. That's all. So bringing the embodiment, bringing the non-physical into the physical is it's more than bringing the non-physical and the physical together. It's blending it, it's merging it, it's making it one. Like you bring chocolate and milk together, blend it and make chocolate milk. Chocolate milk is something new. And it's important to know that healing is a transformative process. And as a healer, you have to go through that process as well. So that your hands become more than physical objects. And what you do in healing is you touch the other with your hands, but your hands are not physical objects. They are representations of the non-physical. They are representations of love, of goodness, of truth, of wholeness. And then here's the difference with, it's a creative process, but here's the difference with treatment. You not use your healing hands to eliminate a disease. No. What you do is you connect with the love, with the goodness, with the truth, with the wholeness of the other. And as a result, diseases will dissolve. But the main reason is not to eliminate disease. The main reason of healing is to reconnect, to become one with the other. And then magic happens. Is it a miracle? No, no. It's a process of baby steps, because there is the recoil, what we call the recoil. The body has a tendency to recoil, to go back to its old state. So there's always a moment, a state of integration, and then you get a result. So it goes in baby steps, and that makes healing the journey as we know it. Okay, so what do you need to become a quantum healer? Well, it's an integrative learning program. And what does it mean? It's not a medical program that learns you how to integrate the evidence-based and the alternative and complementary medicine. No, it's a program that integrates different ways of learning. Yeah? There is education, exploration and embodiment, different ways of learning integrated. And what do you have to learn? Well, it's quite simple. It's who you are. What you have to learn is what the normal is. We always study abnormalities, pathologies, and we have to learn who you are in all your dimensions, as well the physical as the non-physical. And this learning program is rooted in the program of Amit Goswami, Quantum Activism Visual Am, and I fine-tuned it and make it the house of healing. Embedded, rooted in the quantum science, you have the transformative process of you towards the new you, the human being in you, and the ways of learning, or the three pillars you go through this process. It's the house of healing we use in quantum healing. And it can be used for your patients as well as for the healer. The healer has to go through this process as well. And the healer is the subject of my PhD research. So let's walk through the three pillars. There is the part of the education. You bring in this case, the healer, from the ignorance, the darkness, into the brightness. It's the education. And education is not collecting information and come into an info overload and train yourself in reproducing this information. No, it's about understanding. And what do you need to understand? You need to understand the new paradigm. of reality. That not matter, but consciousness is the ground of being. That healing is not a process of upward causation, but from downwards causation. That the power of choice is what heals. And that the body is more than a physical object. There is a physical and a non-physical body, and we have to integrate that, to merge them, to bring them together to one. But we need to understand what our body is. And we have to understand that treatment and healing is not the same. Treatment has to do with eliminating diseases, and healing has to do with making you more human. And the best way to learn is to teach. So I teach on a regular basis to my patients so that they get an understanding, and I learn to talk about these complex things in an understandable language. And in my research, I do a lecture for my subjects once a month. Second pillar is the exploration, learning through experience. And the aim is to bring you from a contracted state towards an expanded state. And the experience we are talking about is the experience of the oneness, the experience of the non-locality. We have to experience that we are not separate objects fighting against each other, but that we are one, that we are one family. And then we can learn how can you live together as one family. That's what healing is about. And that experience of oneness, of non-locality, we can master through meditation or through the archetype, the intuitive exploration of the archetypes. And I do that with my subjects for my research 3 times a week. That's the program. And then the third pillar is the pillar of the embodiment. The body is in a state of freeze, and we have to make the body transformative again. Nothing that cannot change in your body can change in your life. I will come to that in a minute. The embodiment. But there is a preparation before. We have to learn to relax our body. All focus is on relaxing our mind, stop thinking, the monkey mind, get rid of the monkey mind. But we have to relax, to learn how to relax our body. A relaxed body is calming down the head. And what I do for it is what I call the cold water meditation. Standing in cold water and trying to keep away the freeze in your body from the inside out. And I do that with my patients in retreats, sitting on ice and then in a meditative state, trying to keep away the freeze and trying to stay in a relaxed state. Natural movement is important as well as preparation for the embodiment. And then we have the body work. And I do that with my subjects for my research study once a month. I give them a bodywork session. So, how do we evaluate, how do I want to evaluate? Is by measuring the coherence of the heart. Not only the coherence, but the time it takes to make the heart coherent again. 2 measurements. And then the question is, how far can we go? And then quantum science comes in again. Quantum science has a theory of reincarnation. And it says that if you can make a property a character trait, then you can take it with you to your next life. And then you're born with a gift. So we have to make our healing capacity a character trait so that we cannot not heal the other. And then we are born with a gift in the next life. And that's what I try to find in my research. So the third question, why do we need quantum healing? Why is treatment of diseases not enough? Well, first of all, like I told you, it's to heal the healer and to make therapy complete again. And for the patient, instead of building health on a model of pathologies, we use the entanglement between health and happiness as the base for your health, building health. It's the same journey. The journey towards happiness is the same journey for health. Happiness, and that's what the Dalai Lama says, is the highest form of health. So with this model, we can build higher levels of health. And secondly, there is more. There is a connection between your body and your life. And with quantum healing, we can synchronize your thinking, your living, and your livelihoods. And this way, through healing, we can create a value-based civilization. How we can live with the non-physical properties, with the values, in love with each other, in goodness, in honesty with each other. And that's actually the most important thing. Healing is not about individual benefits, but we try, by changing the individual, we try to change the collective. Yeah. And is this quantum healing, is this for everybody? No, it isn't. But there are people waiting for it, there are people looking for it. And the data suggests that if we can reach 15% of the population, we can ascend humanity. And that's the main reason, the main goal of healing, to ascend humanity. Thank you for your attention. And if there are any questions or you were inspired, I want to know more, I will refer to Amit Goswami and the organization of Quantum Activision Visual Ion. Thank you.